Tonight, one of the busiest weeks for travel kicks off with thousands of airline delays and cancellations. The president's One Big Beautiful Bill inches towards Senate approval, and the scare for Beyonce that brought her show to a halt. We begin with what could be the busiest holiday travel week in 15 years. Some of the major carriers are struggling to get back on schedule after days of delays and cancellations. Making matters worse, multiple tornadoes in the upper Midwest, where a new round of severe storms could impact travel, and how much drivers will pay for gas. Our team is covering it all. The Senate's marathon session narrowly advances President Trump's mega bill. Democrats forcing clerks to read the entire bill, nearly 1,000 pages. What it means for taxes and which programs are being cut. Republican leaders are scrambling to win votes for final passage, and new drama as a key Republican critic of the bill says he will not run for re-election. Also tonight, protests over a planned migrant detention center in the Florida Everglades that's nicknamed Alligator Alcatraz. Why environmentalists and Native Americans are teaming up to fight the project. New satellite photos show workers returning to Iran's Fordo nuclear site. A top official weighs in on how soon Iran can return to enriching uranium. President Trump prepares to meet with top Israeli officials while demanding an end to the war in Gaza. The devastating scene outside Philadelphia. A deadly explosion tears 3 homes apart. A terrifying malfunction as Beyonce performed in her hometown. The car she was riding in began to tilt at a sharp angle high above the crowd. How that midair scare came to an end. Dramatic video captures a woman sliding off of a drawbridge in Miami. Americans on parade at Wimbledon. 35 are set to compete at the All England Club. What organizers are doing to try to keep the players safe in the summer heat. And celebrations from coast to coast. Pride is on display across the country.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on this Sunday. I'm Lindsay Davis. We begin tonight with the 4th of July travel rush and what's expected to be the busiest travel week in 15 years, as some of the nation's airports are already grappling with lingering delays and cancellations. Severe storms forcing Delta Airlines to cancel hundreds of flights at its largest hub in Atlanta. Travelers were temporarily stranded as other major travel hubs, including Dallas, D.C., and Charlotte, were hit with delays, cancellations, and ground stops. Multiple tornadoes hitting Minnesota and South Dakota this weekend as more severe storms are on the way to the plains and upper Midwest. Our weather team is standing by with the forecast, but first, ABC's Faith Abube leads us off from New York's LaGuardia Airport.
Tonight, millions on the move ahead of another potential record-breaking holiday travel crush. AAA predicting 72 million Americans are expected to travel at least 50 miles from home for 4th of July celebrations. One of the nation's biggest airlines, Delta, off to a bumpy start to the holiday getaway. Powerful storms in Atlanta Friday crippling Delta's operations, causing the airline to divert more than 90 flights to other airports. Some air traffic controllers at the world's busiest airport evacuating due to strong winds.
Ground rumor is you guys had to evacuate the tower, is that correct?
Delta briefly pulling more than 100 aircraft for damage inspections and canceling hundreds of flights due to strong winds and hail. For a third day, frustrated flyers left waiting at airports for hours.
I'm very tired.
Trying to just get some sleep.
Those travel troubles now appear to ease. Delta telling ABC News that its operations were stable today with no additional impacts expected. The FAA anticipating this could be the busiest week in the skies in 15 years. A majority of holiday travelers, however, avoiding the airports and hitting the road. More than 61 million Americans are expected to travel by car, with gas prices dropping by 3 cents since last week, the lowest 4th of July average since 2021. But severe weather could put a damper on some plans. Multiple tornadoes hitting Minnesota and South Dakota this weekend. And Lindsay, a massive test ahead for the airports and the airlines. Thursday expected to be the busiest travel day this holiday with more than 50,000 flights in the air. Lindsay.
So word to the wise, try to avoid travel on Thursday. Faith, thank you. Let's get right to meteorologist Danny Beckstrom from our New York station WABC. Good evening to you, Danny. Can you time this all out for us?
Yeah, tonight another round firing up with parts of the upper Midwest and the plains in the bullseye. We're talking multiple rounds across multiple states. Severe thunderstorm watches in effect right now from Denver, Colorado up through Green Bay, Wisconsin. Our primary concern going to be damaging wind gusts, but these storms can also produce torrential rain that can trigger flash flooding, a flash flood watch in effect in Kansas City as well. Here's a look at the threat zone. We expect multiple rounds to take us right into Monday morning's commute. Now, pushing ahead into the holiday week, for a lot of the country, it's a fairly seasonable setup. That means summer-like heat and scattered storms. That could create some issues for fireworks on Friday in parts of the plains and southeast coast. But here in the Northeast, Lindsay, things actually look really fantastic heading into the 4th.
All right, fingers crossed,
Yeah.
Danny. Thank you. Now to the drama and all-nighter on Capitol Hill. The Senate narrowly advancing President Trump's so-called big, beautiful bill, but much more work is ahead to get the tax cut and spending bill across the finish line. And one Republican senator is feeling the pressure after opposing the legislation. Here's ABC's Jay O'Brien back on Capitol Hill tonight.
Tonight, on the eve of a marathon series of votes on President Trump's so-called big, beautiful bill, a stunning twist. One of the bill's most outspoken GOP opponents drawing Trump's ire and announcing he will not run for re-election. Senator Thom Tillis, one of 2 Republicans who voted against advancing Trump's signature bill last night, writing his decision not to seek a 3rd term is not a hard choice. Just hours earlier, Trump blasting the GOP senator for his opposition to the legislation in a lengthy social media post, threatening to support primary challengers against him and saying he made a big mistake for America. Tillis concerned over the bill's proposed cuts to Medicaid, now warning that lawmakers who embrace bipartisanship and independence are, quote, becoming an endangered species. Following a standstill on the Senate floor, Trump's mega bill finally inching forward, clearing a key procedural hurdle just before midnight after one GOP opponent, Senator Ron Johnson, flipped from no to yes.
3211 of the National Nuclear Security Administration Act.
Democrats lacking the numbers to block Trump's agenda, delaying the final vote in the Senate by forcing a reading of the entire roughly 1,000-page bill all night long. It took more than 15 hours. Once adamant he wants the bill passed by July 4th, Trump now acknowledging that may not be possible.
I don't know. I mean, I can't tell you that. If we're 2 days late or 5 days late, everybody says, oh, he had a tremendous failure. Whatever it is, as long as we have it, it's very important.
The centerpiece of the president's legislative agenda, the bill includes roughly $4 trillion in tax cuts and fulfills some key campaign promises like no taxes on tips and overtime. Republicans trying to cover the cost with cuts to programs like Medicaid, leading to an estimated 11.8 million Americans potentially losing their health coverage over the next decade, and by slashing Biden-era clean energy incentives like solar panel tax credits, vital to small businesses like Micah Gold-Markell's in Philadelphia. Some of his employees voted for Trump, he says.
And I'm concerned that we would have to have the size of our company.
We're talking about 30 jobs.
We're talking about 30 jobs. That's right. I mean, it hurts to say that.
Billionaire Elon Musk, meanwhile, once again bashing the bill, concerned about nonpartisan estimates that it would add more than $3 trillion to the national debt, and calling cuts to wind and solar initiatives, quote, utterly insane and destructive.
Jay O'Brien joins us now from the Capitol. Jay, we're hearing late word from President Trump tonight with a new warning for any more Republicans who would oppose this bill. What's he saying?
Yeah, Lindsay, after that surprise announcement from Tillis, President Trump delivering a message to any hardline Republicans who might oppose the spending in this bill, warning, remember, quote, you still have to get reelected. Don't go too crazy. Senate Majority Leader John Thune can only afford to lose 3 Republicans on that final vote, expected to drag well into tomorrow. And if it gets out of the Senate, this bill will have to go back to the House, where the original version only passed by a single vote. Lindsay.
Jay, thank you. Now to the protests over a new detention center in the Florida Everglades dubbed Alligator Alcatraz. Indigenous leaders are at the forefront of the protests, saying it encroaches on sacred lands that are protected. Environmentalists are also opposing the construction. Here's ABC senior White House correspondent Selina Wang.
Tonight, demonstrators lining the streets protesting plans to turn a remote airfield in the Everglades into the latest migrant detention facility. The Officials say operations will start on Tuesday and eventually hold up to 5,000. White tents already visible.
Our lives depend on this Everglades. And, you know, bringing this facility here is disrupting everything.
Environmental activists join Native Americans to call for the protection of their ancestral homelands as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis pushes ahead.
Clearly, from a security perspective, if someone escapes, there's a lot of alligators you're going to have to contend. No one's going anywhere, once you do that. It's as safe and secure as you can be.
The Department of Homeland Security teasing their plans for the so-called Alligator Alcatraz. The facility, part of President Trump's efforts to ramp up deportations by expanding detention capacity. In highly controversial moves, Trump has already sent migrants to Guantanamo Bay and a mega prison in El Salvador. In recent weeks, more violent arrests caught on camera from coast to coast. This man thrown to the ground and arrested by ICE agents in California. His 3 sons, all U.S. Marines. And just days ago, the Supreme Court ruled to dramatically limit the ability of federal judges to check presidential power, allowing Trump to move forward with plans to end birthright citizenship, though the legal battle continues. I spoke to this pregnant, undocumented mother who did not want to show her face on camera. She tells me she's uncertain and scared, even though her baby will be protected from the ruling since she's part of one of the plaintiff groups in the case. But she says she's afraid for all the other children born on U.S. soil who may not become citizens.
And Lindsay, the Trump administration is ending temporary protected status for hundreds of thousands of Haitian immigrants, claiming that the country is now safe enough for them to return to. But the State Department is still warning Americans not to travel to Haiti because of gang violence, murder, and crime. Lindsay?
Selina Wang from the White House, thank you. We have breaking news tonight for our viewers in the West. Reports of a shooting near Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, as firefighters were responding to a brush fire. Let's get right to ABC's Zohreen Shah in Los Angeles tonight. Zohreen, what can you tell us?
Both of them believed to be firefighters. All of this taking place in rural northern Idaho near Coeur d'Alene. They say if they cannot neutralize the suspect soon, this could go on for days. They say the suspect or suspects are currently firing with a high-powered rifle. The county sheriff says they do not know how many casualties or suspects there are. The sheriff says the mountain is not clear. He believes people are still stuck, and he is urging people to stay away from the area. Idaho's governor calls this a heinous direct assault on our brave firefighters. Dozens of members of law enforcement are now on the scene, and the FBI is assisting. Local residents have been told to shelter in place. The fire now growing because they cannot put resources towards it. A police helicopter is still flying overhead to try and locate the suspect. The scene described as chaotic. Lindsay?
Just a horrific story there, Zohreen. Thank you. Next tonight, President Trump is calling for the end to the war in Gaza. The president posted on his social media platform, "Make the deal, get the hostages back." Let's get right to ABC's Marcus Moore in Tel Aviv for us tonight. And Marcus, give us context for why the timing on this is so unique.
Well, Lindsay, it is unique because the ceasefire between Iran and Israel has renewed hope that there could be a ceasefire in Gaza. And the Prime Minister Netanyahu is sending one of his top advisors to meet with officials in Washington. As you know, President Trump is calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza as casualties mount there. The health ministry says more than 80 people have been killed in the last 24 hours in Israeli airstrikes, and 18 people have died trying to reach aid distribution centers in Gaza. So, Lindsay, the situation remains dire.
And Marcus, while we have you, what's the latest on the damage assessment at one of Iran's nuclear facilities that was targeted in the U.S. mission just over a week ago?
Yeah, just a week ago, Lindsay, the U.S. sent B-2 bombers that dropped a dozen bunker buster bombs on the Fordo nuclear facility. And it's notable that the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency has said that it's the agency's belief that Iran could resume enriching uranium in a matter of months. That's certainly very different than the assessment that President Trump has shared. And the IAEA's comments come as satellite images show new activity at the Fordo nuclear site. And Lindsay, it's also worth noting that in response to the strikes, Iranian lawmakers have suspended their cooperation with the IAEA.
Marcus Moore in Tel Aviv for us tonight. Marcus, thank you. Back here in the U.S., a deadly home explosion and fire in Philadelphia. 3 homes collapsed. 2 women were pulled from one of them. Both are now hospitalized. Crews later discovered the body of another woman. Here's ABC's Perry Russell.
Tonight, Philadelphia firefighters investigating how 3 homes in this neighborhood collapsed, killing 1 woman, injuring 2 more.
Looks like complete collapse of at least 3 homes.
Investigators say neighbors reported hearing a loud boom at around 5 in the morning. Rocky Dotson lives nearby.
I'm sitting down in the living room watching TV, and all of a sudden I heard like a boom. The blast was so powerful that it blew the front door off across the street.
Debris can be seen on top of nearby homes, windows and doors blown out at houses up and down the block.
We don't know if the loud sound came from the properties collapsing or if it came from something else.
Firefighters evacuating at least 10 homes they say now have stability issues.
We're going to grid this entire affected residents behind us out, going literally brick by brick.
Firefighters say it was during their secondary search when a search dog found an elderly woman dead in the rubble. Lindsay, those 2 injured women, officials say one is in stable condition, the other is in critical condition. Federal investigators were on the scene today. Still not clear what caused those homes to collapse. Lindsay?
Perry, thank you. Out of that heart-stopping moment at a Beyonce concert in Houston. The superstar soaring high above the crowd in a velvet-wrapped red Cadillac when it tilted. Beyonce can be heard saying stop multiple times in video captured by fans. Crew members quickly lowered her to the ground. The singer then told concertgoers, "I want to thank y'all for loving me, and if I fall, I know y'all would catch me." There's still much more ahead on World News Tonight this Sunday, including the terrifying moment a woman fell from an open drawbridge. Next tonight, witnesses watched in horror as a woman fell from a drawbridge in Miami, according to our affiliate WPLG. Video posted on social media shows her trying to hang on when the Brickell Bridge opened Saturday morning, but she slid all the way down, landing on the deck. Investigators say the woman suffered serious injuries to her legs. When we come back, we head to Wimbledon, where dozens of Americans are ready to compete in the world's oldest tennis tournament. The best tennis players in the world are about to compete on the grass at Wimbledon for the 138th time, and the U.S. is well represented. 35 Americans are in the field. ABC's Lama Hassan joins us from the All England Club. Hi there, Lama.
Well, it's that time of year, Lindsay, when the hottest tennis players on the planet make their way right here to play at Wimbledon. And this year, the American contingent is strong, with a record number of American players, with a total of 35 playing in the tournament, including Coco Gauff, fresh off her French Open victory, as well as Madison Keys. Now, remember, she won her first career major at the Australian Open, both looking to continue their winning streak. On the men's side, keep an eye on Taylor Fritz as well as Tommy Paul, who both made it to the quarterfinals last year here at Wimbledon. Not only will it be hot on court, it will be hot everywhere. A heat wave is gripping the UK. The mercury predicted to hit a steaming 92 degrees Fahrenheit. The All England Club will introduce their heat rule. All those playing on courts that don't have a retractable roof will get a 10-minute break when the temperatures reach 86 Fahrenheit. So I think it's safe to say that things are going to be heating up right here at Wimbledon. Lindsay.
Well said, Lama. Thank you. ESPN's coverage of Wimbledon starts Monday at 6 a.m. Eastern on ESPN and Disney+. When we come back, Americans celebrate Pride. Finally tonight, Pride on display from coast to coast. From New York to San Francisco to Chicago. Wrapped in rainbows and showcasing pride, cities across the country celebrated LGBTQ+ communities with parades to close out Pride Month this weekend. Hundreds of thousands of people marched through Cincinnati streets on Saturday. Despite the heat, organizers say they think this year's turnout topped last year.
It shows that Pride is more important than it ever has been before.
Some attribute the large crowds across the country to the community's resilience despite national backlash.
We're not going to be deleted or quieted or silenced.
Tracy and Anthony Burns have attended Cincinnati Pride for 3 years, giving out free mom and dad hugs to make sure everyone feels loved.
Getting a hug from a dad, even if it's not their biological dad, it forms some kind of instant connection.
In St. Petersburg, hundreds of thousands celebrated at its 23rd annual Pride Festival.
This is probably the biggest I've seen it.
For many in attendance, they say Pride is about feeling accepted.
It's important to celebrate so that they see representations.
It's showing up and being visible and showing support to other people that need the support.
Thanks so much for watching. I'm Lindsay Davis in New York. Good night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir, America's most watched newscast.